What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today we're going to be doing another tactics video, this time over the 3-5-2. Now, I have used it a little bit this FIFA and the previous FIFA as well, and while I did like it, I did feel it was a little bit lacking in a few areas. However, recently I have found this Reddit post on FIFA that has gotten a lot of traction, a lot of views and stuff like that. Yeah, I have adjusted a little bit from the tactics and instructions just for myself and my, preferable play style and how I play, but for the vast majority of all of these instructions and tactics and stuff like that I'm going to be talking about, most of it does come from the Reddit post. So the Reddit post is from Wahoo's22. Not sure if I really like the name, but whatever. They claim to be a self-proclaimed 3-5-2 expert, and apparently they've also made 3-5-2 tactics and instructions from previous FIFAs as well. So what I'm going to do is again talk about the 3-5-2 a little bit, and again what I would recommend in a couple areas, but most of it is from this post. And if you guys want to take a closer, more in-depth detail look at this, I will link it in the description, because seriously, like, look at this. This is just... I will also be sure to let you guys know what I personally changed for myself and what is actually just from the Reddit post. So that way there's not really any confusion, and it's just more about personal preference versus what he would highly recommend. And this user also mentions a few things about when you are losing and then when you are winning, but just trying to hold on to a lead, and then also just the main tactic. But I will be talking just about the main tactic itself. So starting with the defense, the defensive style is balanced. Width is 4, depth is 4. This is a pretty standard thing. I mean, I've personally used it when it comes to other formations as well. I know a lot of people just use that in general. So again, that's not something you really need to worry about changing your style to fit, because again, that's a pretty balanced and pretty typical thing. Now for the offense, these are things that I've definitely changed from the past. So when it goes to the offensive style, this user would recommend long ball. The reason being is because balance is apparently not good when it comes to attacking AI. Now, I've mentioned before that attacking AI, while it's not as bad as FIFA 20, is still not good. The fact that it's better than FIFA 20 doesn't really mean a whole lot, right? FIFA 20 was garbage when it came to attacking AI. So what this user says is long ball actually helps with the attacking AI a little bit. It's a little bit more dynamic and they move a little bit more. Again, it's not going to be like it's FIFA 17, but it'll definitely be better than just balanced, where they're just stagnant and standing around. The width is extremely high, and this was something I was actually nervous about at first, but the reason why I actually do like it very high as per the recommendation in the Reddit post is because this is supposed to be a somewhat wide formation, right? The left and right mids, and we'll get into their importance later, will be extremely wide, and that's going to help drag the left and right backs either out and leave some more space in, or the left and right backs won't notice them out wide, and then you can get it out wide to them. So either way, it's going to be a win-win for you. Players in the box, and the Reddit post recommends anything from 5 to 7. Now, I started it at 5, and personally, I don't think I got enough players in the box. I don't think they got further up into the box either. If you take a look at the graphic for 5 players in the box, you can see that there's 3 players kind of near the top of the box. So when I go to 6, 3 players get further up. Again, personally, I have it on 6 just because then there are more players in the box. I don't find as though that there's too many players in the box, or that there's just a line of players right at the defensive line, which is really nice and something that I've actually had trouble with in the past. So again, I personally just use 6, but again, the Reddit post does recommend 5, 6, or 7. Next up is going to be the instructions. And again, once we go to certain positions, I will recommend what I personally believe versus what the Reddit post naturally started with. So we'll just take it from position to position. So starting with the center backs, these things are just going to be all balanced, all default stuff. Don't really have to worry about that. Next up is the defensive mids, and then this is where it starts to get a little bit more in depth. So for the defensive mids, we have one of the defensive mids on cut passing lanes, balanced attack, and cover center, and we have the other defensive mid on cut passing lanes, stay back while attacking, and cover wing. Now, depending on how good you are defending, you could bring both defensive mids on stay back if you are not very good, but me personally, defending is actually one of my strong suits, especially compared to attacking, so I do have one of the defensive mids on balance while the other one is on stay back. I do also have to mention that you don't necessarily need the left defensive mid with these specific instructions and the right defensive mid on these specific instructions. If you want the left defensive mid to be staying back and the right defensive mid to be unbalanced, that's totally fine as well. Now for cover center versus cover wing, you do actually want the defensive mid who's going forward to be on cover center. The reason being is when they do push forward a little bit, the defensive mid that is staying back will actually shift to a little bit more of a central position. He's not just going to be on this wing side or on that left or right side, depending on where they are, and just going to sit there, because again, they are going to be sitting a little bit more central. Again, these are central defensive mids. They're not like their left or right backs or left and right mids. So when that happens, and let's say you lose the ball and you're starting to get counterattacked, this defensive mid that is on cover wing can actually go to the opposite side of where they normally are. So for example, Paulinho, again, when we have the ball, is going to be a little bit more central because he is a defensive mid and he's going just to shift a little bit more central since the other defensive mid is forward. Since he is on cover wing and he is more central, whatever side that your opponent starts to attack down, that defensive mid will go to that side. So the right defensive mid could potentially cover an attack down the left side. And what's actually good about this is then the left defensive mid, or the other defensive mid that was forward, will actually go to the other defensive mid spot. So again, Paulinho, if he's covering a spot on the left side and defending that, Goretzka will then cover the opposite side. He will then switch to that right defensive mid spot. They are a little bit more fluid. They can actually switch spots, which is very, very nice. And then with the defensive mid who's on get forward, it's also important to have them on cover center, just so then the defensive mid who is on stay back, he will not be hindered by the defensive mid coming back. Next up, we have the left and right mids, and we have them both on comeback on defense, and we have them both on cut inside. Now, the Reddit post specifically says just to have them on comeback on defense, and that is just for more defensive support. Again, when the opposition has the ball, they tend to come back, and then you essentially have a left and right wing back, making yourself a 5 at the back formation. Now, again, this is not a drop back formation by any means. This is not a super defensive formation. It is a very attacking formation. It just adds a little bit more stability for you. However, like I just said, I do have them on cut inside, even though the Reddit post does not have that. The reason why I have them on cut inside is because when you are going down the field and you are going from one side to the other, I noticed that when you have them on cut inside, you can easily get your left and right mids the ball, and then you can get a shot with them. When we talk about the archetypes later on and what players you need in certain positions, basically, I'll say now that the left and right mids need to be very good all around. So obviously when they get into these positions to shoot or to pass, they need to be good at it because they will get into these positions fairly often from what I've found. Again, as the Reddit post says, it does not have it on cut inside, and they say that they don't actually score or get many assists right here. But again, from what I found and the way I play, I found that they actually do get into these scoring opportunities a little bit more often than this post suggests. So again, what I have seen is cut inside is actually a little bit better, just so then they're not completely out wide hugging the touchline when you get into the attacking third. They're still going to be out wide because they are left and right mids and because of the width. Only when you start to get into the final third on a counter attack is when they start to cut inside a little bit. So again, I've just found that cut inside is a little bit more helpful for me, but if you don't want that, you can just leave it unbalanced. Next up, we have the center attacking mid, and we have him on stay forward and free roam. Now, we have him on stay forward because of triangles in the attacking third, which again, we'll get into a little bit later on. But we also have him on free roam versus stick to position. Now, this is something that the Reddit post specifically says that you can just decide for yourself. It doesn't really have to be one or the other, just depending on how you attack. Now, I did try stick to position for a little bit, but I ended up on free roam, and that's mainly because of the way that I play. When I have it on free roam and I go down the field on one side or the other, that center attacking mid tends to drift to the side that the ball is on. So for example, if I'm running down the wing with Guerrero, Talisca tends to drift out a little bit wide, and then I can start making some triangles with Guerrero, Goretzka, and Talisca, or Guerrero, Talisca, and Bamba. Again, as the Reddit post suggests, you can have it on free roam or stick to position, just depending on the natural off the ball movement and for how you personally play. Last up are the strikers, and we have them both on stay forward and drift wide. However, one of them is on getting behind and the other is mixed attack. Now, one of them being on getting behind, the other on mixed attack is just so they kind of play off each other, so that way they're not just staying, right next to each other. One's a little bit more forward, one's a little bit more deeper, and they can just kind of play off of each other a little bit. We also have them on stay forward, so then they are the furthest forward. Again, they are strikers. They should be leading the attack. And then for the drift wide, this is actually something that I learned from the Reddit post, and that is on drift wide, these players tend to be a little bit more dynamic and move a little bit more. As I mentioned with the long ball tactic versus balanced tactic, when you have your two strikers on stay central, they tend to be very, very stagnant versus when they have to be on drift wide or even balanced, but I've found drift wide is a little bit better. They tend to actually move a little bit more, and they tend to actually make runs a little bit more. So again, it's enhancing that attacking AI, which we know is still not great this year. You can see on the Reddit post that with drift wide, this Reddit user found that drift wide tends to result in a more dynamic and mobile front line. Now, the last thing I do want to talk about is going to be the archetypes. Now, again, from the Reddit post, this is not the last thing by any means, because again, it is stupid in depth. Jesus Christ. But I feel as though archetypes tend to be some of the most important things that talk about, meaning the types of players that you need in your team. So starting with the center backs, you don't really need specific ones for the majority of the things. The Reddit post suggests a left-footed center back on the left side, just so then if you go, and you play the ball on the left side, that left center back can dink the ball over, and then there could be a little bit more passing or better passing between the left mid, left defensive mid, left center back. And something that I personally would add is to have some of your center backs be very, very good on the ball. I'm not saying players like Varane won't be good just because they're not good on the ball, but again, I feel as though having good center backs who are good on the ball tend to break down team press very, very well. So what tends to happen on team press is obviously all of your players are marked. So when this happens, I pass the ball all the way to the goalie, and from there, your opposition tends to run at the goalie with a striker. When that happens, that's going to leave your central center back completely free, and because this is a 3 at the back, the other two center backs tend to be out a little bit more wide, meaning there is space for that central center back. So from there, again, you want them to be good on the ball, because once you dink it over your opposition's striker and you get the ball with your central defender, then he can just kind of move up the field, and then again, from there, your player, or your opposition, I should say, is just going to be trying to stop you. And from there, you have the advantage, right? You have a man up, you've beaten a man already, and then you can just take it from there. For the defensive mids, you want all around good players. Obviously, for the player that's on stay back, you want him to be a little bit more defending. If you do have a player on balance, you want him to be pretty good at attacking. But overall, both players are defensive mids, and they also could switch positions as well. Paulinho could potentially go and play left defensive mid, meaning he's going to be on balance. So he could actually push forward, and that means he's going to be in the attack. So yes, both players are defensive mids. They have to be good at defending, but again, one of them is on balance attack. So that person has to be good at attacking as well. And that doesn't just mean that that specific player is going to be the only one attacking, because again, the two defensive mids could switch spots, and then the other defensive mid is going to be going forward. So again, for these two defensive mids, just make sure they're all around very good at pretty much everything. For the left and right mids, these are arguably, in my opinion, the most important players on the field. They really do have to be good at everything, similar to the defensive mids. And in my opinion, you should be putting a lot of your coins and some of your best players in these spots. I'm not saying you spend literally 80% of your budget just on these two spots, but again, you do need to make sure that you have good players in here because they're going to be getting back and they're going to be going forward. They're going to be providing defensive support and making tackles, and then they're going to be providing crosses, passes, shots. They're going to be doing everything. In my opinion, they should honestly be a little bit more well-rounded than even the defensive mids. Along with that, you want to make sure that you do have substitutes on the field, because even if you do have players with very good stamina, in this type of formation where they're on comeback on defense, they're literally going to be running from left and right back all the way up to left and right wing. They're going to be doing that literally the entire game. So make sure that you have subs on the bench, because I can guarantee you these players are going to be tired by the 65th or 70th minute. Lastly, we have the center attacking mid and the strikers. Now, I'm lumping these three players all together because all three of them need to be essentially center forwards, where they have all good shooting stats, passing stats, and potentially dribbling stats as well. These are going to be players that really link up together, and so your center attacking mid could get forward and shoot the ball. Your strikers could pass the ball a lot and give a lot of assists. So a center attacking mid who is very, very good at passing but not so good at shooting might not be the best here. Someone at striker who is very, very good at shooting, like Immobile, could obviously be good at shooting, but he's not maybe going to be the best in this formation because his passing and his link-up play aren't that great. So again, to re-emphasize, you are going to need center forward type players in the center attacking mid and the two striker spots, because they're all going to be passing the ball. They're all going to be shooting the ball as well. And if one of the players tends to be lacking in one of those areas, your attack could really fall off and you could not score a goal, or you might be able to, miss a pass that could prevent a goal. Now, the Reddit post does suggest that you would like at least one striker who's good in the air. Now, your center attacking mid could also be good in the air. So for me, Talisca, he's 6'3", he's fine, right? He'd be fine in the air. He can win headers. That's not going to be a problem. However, as I mentioned before, with the center backs being good on the ball, if you do like to play it out of the back, like I personally do, you don't necessarily need strikers who are good in the air or center attacking mid who's good in the air, because again, once you get the ball all the way back to the goalie and then your opposition striker just starts to bum rush you, you can dink it over him, get it to one of the center backs, and then from there you have a man beat, you're going to have a man advantage, and then you can just distribute it from there. Now, if you maybe don't have good center backs who are good on the ball, or you tend to be a little bit more nervous while playing team press and you don't really like playing it out of the back, then yes, having a striker or one of your center attacking mid be good in the air is probably going to be a very good idea. So that is going to be it for this video. Again, this is mostly from the Reddit post. I will link it into the description. So I believe it was Wahoo's22. So thank you to that user. I do appreciate it. It's helped me a lot in the weekend league. I personally thought it was a lot of fun. Try this formation. And again, make sure to give that Reddit post an upvote as well. So like I said, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been DMG. Peace.